before we get it
Yeah.
going, any perspectives on Venezuela? I know we don't have any extra news that anybody else doesn't have already. We don't have any other perspective that hasn't been shared by Mersheimer or Jeffrey Sachs or, on and on and on.
Yeah.
But
Drop site.
yeah,
Yeah.
drop
Yeah,
site.
drop site.
And
Yeah.
or Democracy Now! Yesterday did a special, which was
Mhm.
very good. So
Mhm.
that Harvey sent me. So,
Well, I heard Max Blumenthal last night, and he was on with his wife, Anya, who's,
Oh,
Argentinian. I mean,
is,
is Venezuelan.
is that his wife?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. And
Oh my gosh. That was
anyway,
great. I watched that too, Harvey.
yeah, but she was saying, she wondered about this vice president if Trump or CIA had gotten to her because um,
Yeah.
she said that she had heard from multiple sources that that Trump and them were really working on the vice president to try to get her to cooperate.
mhm.
And Anya said, what made me suspicious was all these low-flying helicopters and planes, and Venezuela has excellent air defenses.
Yeah.
And they're not incompetent. Why in the hell didn't they shoot it up and down?
Right.
Right.
So that planted that worry in me. And then later, she did come out and basically read Maduro's manifesto on resistance. So it may be that she feels like it's more dangerous for her to be suspected of being a accomplice to Trump than it is
Collaborator.
than for the CIA to get her.
Well, I can see why they didn't shoot the helicopters when they were leaving. I mean, that was their president on board, but but when they're coming in,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know Russia evidently is in contact and working with them and
And
as an
China
ally.
too.
So strange.
Yeah. Russia and China are not going to come to their rescue,
No.
No, it's too dangerous because
just like they haven't come to the rescue of the Palestinians.
So
Yeah.
I have a good friend who's a childhood friend. I lived with them in the summer of '67 in Caracas, and I was 14. And when you guys were going off to war, whenever, 66, 67. And I called him and he goes, and I'm like, so wow, are you okay? And, because I was up that night watching something and they cut the program to bring us breaking news that Caracas is being bombed. So I called him and he's like, no, the bombing's all stopped. It was just they were just coming in to get Maduro out. And frankly, myself and they're middle class. Myself and my friends, we're really happy he's out. They couldn't stand him. So, I mean, this is not a perspective I want to give the veterans
Right.
because I'll get nailed by most of you all. But
Yeah.
he never liked Chavez and did not like this guy. And he's one of those that are, because there's no rioting in the streets. There's no one trying to fight back. So, it's going to be very interesting. I don't know more than that. I have no insight on Venezuela, just that I did
Yeah.
have some time there. And it was disgusting in '67 when I was there. It was definitely rich and poor, and it was really poor. And
Yeah.
so I'm glad there's been some changes, but anyway,
Well, Chavez did a lot to change it.
Yeah,
that's
of course.
right.
Yeah.
He did, and
Brought a lot of people out of poverty.
yes,
Right.
that needed some changes, and it made some people very uncomfortable and hurt some. But that is what needed to happen. It needed to happen.
Yeah, well,
And my friend is against the Vietnam War. He was for civil rights in the U.S. He's kind of a lefty, but when it came to his own country, it's like he did not like these macho guys. He thought they were macho guys. What can you do?
Well.
So that's a different perspective, and we won't talk about that.
all right. So let's start talking about the West Bank.
Yeah, you're just back.
Okay. You want to start now?
right now.
Okay, you're recording?
You
Okay,
betcha.
okay, you're recording. I'm sorry.
All of this.
So I'm Anthony Donovan. I'm a associate member of Veterans for Peace very proudly, and I just returned from a month. I went actually 10 days before this group. I went with a group called Sabil, which is a kind of a Christian organization in the West Bank area, in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, and they try to have people come over to see what's going on and go back and tell people. It was good. I'm glad I had that. I'm glad I was with the group because they introduced us to so many fantastic activists and stars in the Palestinian struggle over the years. Um, but but I really love always going also on my own without a group. So I went for 10 days beforehand on my own, and in a way that's where I got the greatest taste of what the hell it's like being a Palestinian, and it's lousy. It's really lousy. We're talking about the West Bank. Never mind Gaza. Gaza is beyond, and we all know that. Um, but
Anthony,
anyway,
before
it
you,
was cool.
how did you get there?
Well, you go, you apply for a visa, and you get, you go through a regular routine. If you want to go to Israel, you gotta get certain paperwork. You apply online, and you got to get permission to go, and you present that when you go through. I went through Amman, the airport in Jordan, because I was told I most likely would be turned back at Tel Aviv. So I went through Amman, and I went through the very chaotic process. I went by myself. The group had it a little easier. They had a guide and all that stuff, but going by yourself is quite chaotic. It took me many hours waiting in lines, not knowing what lines were what for what, and many bag checks, etc., in Jordan before you even get to the Israeli border. And then when you get there, I don't know. I was saying prayers. I had a lot of fear. Deleted everything from my phone. I took down my Facebook page. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this. I want to go back, but so I did all this stuff, and I deleted all my conversations and anything that said Veterans for Peace. I dropped. So any communications with you, because Veterans for Peace is a terrorist organization. I bet your listeners did not know that, but you are.
According to the Israelis, we're a terrorist organization.
Yes. What's that?
According to the Israelis, we're a terrorist organization.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So
We're in good company.
Yep, you
yeah,
bet.
anyway, but I did get rid of that stuff and before I went. But then I got on this line with all these Palestinians, and that's, to me, I'm glad I had to witness what a Palestinian, no, I didn't really, but I was with Palestinians. They're before me, after me, with me. And it's lousy. You're just herded like cattle. You're not trusted. You've got soldiers looking you every inch of the way. But sure enough, white American with a passport, I get waved by a soldier, says, "You over here." I'm like, oh God. So they're going to be checking out. I'm going to get interrogated. And I go over, goes, get in the VIP lane. And I'm like, he saw my American passport. I'm like, VIP lane? And still I thought, okay, I'm going to be funneled in for some questioning. So I get up there, hand my passport to the guard, and he just looks at me. You were here in 2002. And I'm staring and I'm like, yeah, with my mother. That's right. And so they had within 10, 15 seconds, they had my whole history. The Israelis have everything down, but they had nothing down about my activism for the past 2 years. And I've been doxxed and the whole time. So I was pretty shocked. So he hands me back my passport and said, have a great trip. Gave me a big smile. And I was like, thank you. So I lucked out there. It's an unusual story, but I had no problem coming through. And unlike those that I just left, and got on a little mini bus, packed, mini bus to Jerusalem. So I spent, and I wanted to be with people. I didn't get a hotel, so stayed in a youth hostel. So I was with all kinds of people, young mostly, Israelis, people from different countries. Was with a woman that was coming to volunteer for the IDF. She believed that the soldiers over there were getting a bad rap, and she was from Canada, I think. Young, brilliant woman, by the way. I had many a talk with her, but she was coming to support make sandwiches and prepare first aid kits and all. I'm like, really? Anyway, you get all kinds of perspectives when you're traveling on your own. And you're on buses talking to people. So I deeply appreciated that. Well, what I would like to say, I'm sorry, up front, is the Veterans for Peace have such a great, anytime I mention Veteran for Peace to Palestinians and that we may be thinking of coming over again or in a delegation, everyone's eyes lit up. They remember, a lot of them remembered. In 2017, we had a delegation go over there. You probably know this. I didn't really know Matthew Ho, Tarak, our late good brother Ken Mayers, Miko Palid was with them. We had a number of about, it looked like 10, 15, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a little clip. I think Chris Smiley did a little clip. And Tarak, he's himself there, evidently goes up to the IOF, and they've got their guns trained on the Veterans for Peace as they're marching through Hebron in a line. They've locked arms, and this is 2017. And Tarak runs up to them and goes, "Put those damn guns down. Don't you train that gun on me. What the hell you think you're doing? Put that gun, he's yelling at them. I can tell you right now, you couldn't do that today. You could not do that today. You'd be shot.
Really?
Yeah, you'd be shot. They don't take anything today. We had to make sure we had no kafirs on, no Palestinian. That's for sure. You couldn't walk around.
Well, isn't the West Bank Palestinian territory?
Of course.
Yes, well, they have a very complicated, everything's very, well, it's not complicated. We're stealing the land and we have a slow genocide going on. So it's not complicated at all, really. But the Israelis make it as complicated as possible. They have areas A, B, and C. And so much of the West Bank is divided up in those three kinds of areas. And they keep, anytime the Israelis want, they say, oh, this is military zone. And they'll just tell the Palestinians in that area, this is a military zone, you have to get out. You can't travel here anymore. It's horrible. I'm coming away with a feeling, I'm glad I went, but it really is bad there. When I was on my own, I got on a Palestinian bus to go to Bethlehem, which is really only a 20-minute drive from Jerusalem. But if you're a Palestinian, it takes you a couple of hours because you have to wait for buses. You get on these crowded buses. You get off. They have checkpoints. How many you have to go through changes from day to day. But sure enough, our bus is stopped. We all have to disembark. We all have to get our IDs completely evaluated and looked at, and then before they let us all get back on the bus, and then they let you go to the next checkpoint. It's insane. None of us would put up with this.
It sounds demeaning.
It's so demeaning. And these are young soldiers. Do you remember when you were soldiers in your, I don't know, early 20s or late teens, 19, 20-year-olds? They have such a pride and chutzpah. And I don't want to get down on all Israelis. They're Zionists, they're supremacists, and there were some soldiers that you could tell were not comfortable with what they're doing. But look, you have to serve. If you live in Israel, you have to serve. You have to go in. You don't have to. I appreciate those who don't. They're few, but But basically, you're just funneled into this thing. You're given guns. You're given this training. You're told these people are extremely dangerous. You got to keep your eye on them. And they do. And they really feel the power. Do you remember the power of having a gun and defenseless civilians around you, maybe? And it must have been that way in Vietnam, of these poor farmers or people in villages. Of course, back then you didn't know who was who, and I think the Israelis pushed that too. You can't trust any of them.
Another
It's
reason
definitely,
why I'm glad I joined the Navy, so that the only time I had to carry a gun was on guard duty,
yeah.
but we were still out in the water.
Yeah, so just this attitude of superiority, and that's what's really wrong. Before I go too much further, I do want to salute the Israelis, not only here in America, the Jewish our Jewish brothers and sisters who've been leading a lot of our protests and vigils. God bless you all. You are my heroes, but also the Israelis, the few Israelis, by the way, who stand up. When I went to, on my own, I went to a couple of protective presence camps run by activists, run by Palestinians, but they take internationals in to protect the Bedouin village. Nonviolent. They're all dedicated to nonviolence. It's a difference between what we see here in America and over there. The people doing protective presence are really trained in nonviolent techniques. There's no shouting, cursing, calling people names. They try to practice the preach. And so, yeah, the Israelis that join, there are Israelis that join these camps. And to me, they're so brave. It gives the settlers pause when they hear someone who knows their lingo, who served in the IDF, speaks Hebrew, and is telling them to stop and not in my name. Those people, to me, are really brave. And there's one organization I'd love to shout out, Rabbis for Human Rights over there. We met some. Man, these people are brave. They're taking it from all sides. So let's remember in our fervor for stopping the genocide and the horrors that are happening in our name, to remember that there are some Israelis that are trying their best to push against the narrative, which is everywhere. Walking through Jerusalem and some Israeli areas, I didn't just go to Palestinian areas. I went to Israeli areas purposefully, ate in some Israeli restaurants, went to some of their bars. And, it's as if there's nothing happening over there. They live in such a bubble. It was my feeling. No one was talking about 30 miles away, the suffering in Gaza. Or no one's talking about the suffering on the other side of these walls. They don't go. They don't know each other.
Now you could travel back and forth
Yeah.
past the wall,
Yeah.
but the Palestinians can't.
Yeah, but no, even Israelis are not allowed in Area A. They have to get special permission. They're not. But yeah, the Israelis have lots of privileges. They get in tour groups. There's a lot of insidious things that are happening, of course. I don't even know where to begin, guys. I thought I'd have a co-presenter with me. So I was going to give him a lot of the floor. But the Israelis have taken over like the tour business. If a Christian group wants to get a tour in Israel, if you go to some of the holy sites like the Church of Nativity, Bethlehem, right, where Christ is born, you're most likely going to get an Israeli tour guide giving you a tour of the Nativity Church. It's something really. He does a decent job. I listened into a couple of them, but there's a twist, and they shave the narrative in a way. Yeah, they have now these teams of archaeologists all over the West Bank, and I'm sure Gaza too. Well, not yet, but they go around trying to prove this has always been Israeli land. And I met a beautiful woman who's Jewish, American, who's been in one of these protective present camps in a little Bedouin village called Ras Ajala. I think I'm saying it decently, but she's been there for months. Great, great, dedicated, brave soul. Um, yeah, and she's really into archaeology, and she noticed how the Israeli archaeologists would come because Abraham walked in this area, right?
Mhm.
And how they twist everything around to make this all about this is Israeli land. And and she's saying she so badly wants to teach the Palestinian children, no, this is your land. This is your land. It's always been your land for multiple generations. Your family comes from here too. So, yeah, she's trying to bring it back. This is a brave
Hmm.
New York Jewish woman over there in these protective camps. So God bless. I do recommend anyone who can just go to the West Bank, please, and go with a Palestinian run organization, please, Christian organization or any organization that's run by Palestinians. You'll be somewhat safe. There's always a little risk here. The settlers are unhinged. Um, if I can share,
Yes.
is our Delaney? Is he not checked in at all, Harvey?
Not yet.
Okay,
No,
sorry.
yeah, I saw him today. He said he was gonna.
Okay, well, when he does, you'll know. But I went to a camp on my own before the group arrived. Very, very touched by both the Israelis there and the internationals that I met that were there, led by Palestinian, a great, what was the name of that group? It's UCP, Nonviolence for Unarmed Civilian Protection. This is a
Mm,
great group to support if
mm,
anyone's looking. UCP, Nonviolent Unarmed Civilian Protection Group.
mm,
They they uh, they just do what they can to be there. And the day
mm.
that I was there, I went with one of the directors of this camp who picked me up in Bethlehem, drove me there. And a four-wheeled, I don't know what you call them, vehicle with a couple of settlers zipped up to the gate, threw garbage into the encampment. Where they were mass. It was quite frightening. I was scared. Remember, we're unarmed. We have no protection. They're trained in nonviolence. But I was like, geez, what's happening here? So that was my first real feeling threatened, physically threatened. So, and I left that night. Very, very interestingly, the director who drove me there got called for some other problem that was happening in another camp area. She had to go. But there was an Israeli that was visiting and said, "Oh, I'm going back to Jerusalem. We'll go back. Don't worry about it." So he was, we went to a bus station later, but it was nighttime. We went at night to go back to Jerusalem, which was about an hour away. So I put my faith into this former IDF Israeli who was visiting the camp. You have to have some trust, right? In
Now I'm getting scared.
strangers. Well, it got scary. Um, anyway, soon after we left, I heard later by a woman that was in the camp who texted me that they were raided about an hour after I left. Maybe they saw our car. The settlers, they're looking at everything, but they raided the camp and they maced the activists, both the Israeli and there's seven of them. That's all. They maced them and they hit them with clubs. So I just missed that action. I mean that horror, that attack. They threaten. They threaten. This is real. It's unbelievable.
This was in the West Bank.
This is the West Bank. Yeah, this is near Jericho.
Yeah.
And I just went there on my own with this director. I was very interested in looking more into the UCP, what they do,
Hmm.
and my group hadn't arrived yet, so she was great. Her name is Amira, and I met her here in New York City. She was talking to some NGOs that gather around the Palestinian issue, and she is one heck of a brave Palestinian young woman. I tell you, there are a lot of young women leading, Palestinian women leading this standing up for human rights. I
Yeah.
was so impressed with her. So, but my ride back to Jerusalem was really got a little hairy because this guy started grilling me like, so what about October 7th crap? All the stuff you heard. So you don't believe all those women were raped? And I'm like, oh God, what car am I in? But it's pitch black outside. I have no idea where I am. We're going through the desert. And so I wasn't going to start arguing too much.
No.
We missed our bus, evidently. There was no bus coming, and we hitchhiked.
Oh my God.
And we got picked up by a young former IDF, 24-year-old Israeli former IDF soldier who was listening to all this, driving me. So I didn't want to get into an argument. But you're always looking for common ground. And I think that's what we have to keep doing. And I love the model of nonviolence and taking our cue from Palestinians to stay true to that model. I've been saying for the past 2 years, we have to, if you want to know the enemy, when the hate arises in us, that's our enemy. Note it. Note it within yourself. When that hate and anger, it's understandable that it comes up, and it's righteous that it comes up, but what to do with it and not to act on it. So I've seen that as my job the past 2 years, is to recognize when my anger and my hate comes up, because it can come up very easily. It's so unjust what's happening over there. It's so wrong, and it's done with our taxpayer money. It's so inhumane, and we are giving it the green light. So anyway, that's my monitor. And so with these people, I just try to find the common ground. And I got talking to this driver who's with the IDF, and she was kind of agreeing with this Israeli, who I credited for going to the camp, because he went there because he heard about this camp and he wanted to check it out. This is an Israeli who wanted to just see what's going on. And I thanked him for doing that and asked him what he thought. And that's when we started getting a little bit of an argument. But you look for the common ground, and the driver happened to be studying the Oud. I said, so what do you do in your life? And she goes, well, the best thing right now is I'm studying the Oud. I'm like, you're studying the Oud? Because that's a Palestinian instrument. That music is universal. It's the universal language. Music brings us together. It's that salve that crosses boundaries. And I just was praising her. Like, wow, you're studying the Oud. That's fantastic. She was
Now, what's a Oud?
She was so thrilled that I knew about the Oud, and that I was supporting her playing that.
Yeah, it's like a stringed instrument. It's like a lute or something.
Yeah. Brian, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm so glad you're talking about this, because, I was just thinking it was going to be just, you were just going to be going through the list of horrible things you saw. But when you talk about hate, I've been really thinking a lot and trying to write about my grandparents were Russian Jews who fled Tsarist Russia at the turn of the 20th century. And I thought, what if they had gone to Palestine? What would I be like if I had been born into that, from your birth, indoctrination, and being filled with fear and the sense that the whole world wants you dead, and that, everyone is the enemy. Because it's so easy for me to, see what these IDF soldiers are doing and think, these people are monsters. But I have to understand, I can't promise I would have been any different if I had been through that same system.
That's right, Harvey. I know I wouldn't be any different, because I was an American. I was an American who believed very strongly that we were doing the right thing in Vietnam by saving those poor innocent people over there from the horrible communists. We were saving them. So I
Mhm.
believed that until I met, luckily I'm in New York, and I would come across a rally and I would meet these people called Vietnam Vets Against the War. And they are the ones that turned my head around. And if I hadn't met them, I would probably be just like every other person that believed that war was justified and good. So Israelis feel what they're doing is justified. They don't know the enemy because they built these walls. It reminds me very much of the black of our civil rights, 1940s, 1950s. I wasn't alive in the 40s. The blacks in our country, what they had to go through in the South.
Mhm.
Separate, you all remember, separate bathrooms. You can't go to this
Mhm.
restaurant. This is in our lifetime. We
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
remember the segregation. Yes, back of the buses. Yes, different neighborhoods. Oh, don't go to that area. We grew up with that. It's the same thing, same stuff. It's this sense of superiority. We were white or from different cultures maybe, but we felt we were superior. I can't say I
Mhm.
remember feeling this
Mhm.
myself, but that's the lingo that was all around
Mhm.
us about black people. So a lot of people fought really hard to break these chains that we're all in. And once again, I'm very thankful in New York City to go to public, I went to City College and I had black teachers, Hispanic teachers, black classmates, and there and I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse in New York City hospitals, and I clean the shit, and and I did deep wound care for blacks, whites, Hispanics, Chinese, and it's all you see very clearly that we are human beings. I used to like to joke. It's not really a joke when I'd hear about this chosen people stuff. If I could, I would joke with a Jewish friend or whatever and just say, no, 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 no. The Jews are not the chosen people. The Irish Catholics are chosen. I was told the Irish Catholics are chosen. And they'd stare, what? And anyway, yeah, this chosen stuff is.
Mhm.
So thank God I was a nurse in city hospitals and had to see the excrement and the blood and the insides of all our bodies, and to meet incredibly intelligent people of all colors and races and nationalities, and really stupid people of all colors, national, you know, whites, blacks, it didn't matter. They're really jerks and they're incredible people. So I'm really thankful. So anyway, yeah, Israelis live a separate world, and some of them, I didn't hear anyone talking about the problems. They're going to restaurants and having a good time. I got a text this morning from a fellow over there doing protective presence, but took a little vacation, went down to Eilat, and was swimming in the beach this morning in Eilat. It's a resort area in Israel. Everyone's having a great time, umbrellas, serving drinks, people laughing. You'd never know there's a war going on. Just several, not a war. Sorry, pardon that word. It's a genocide. It's apartheid. It's not a war. You know that. But it's amazing the world that we can maintain, and the United States is helping to maintain this world. So there are many things we can do to stop this. Is there any? I'm sorry,
Well,
I
when
didn't
the
know I
group
could
got there,
just roll on here. But
yeah,
is there a question
yeah,
specific?
when the group got there, how did things change for you?
Well, um, I groups are great because Sabil is the name of this group. They have trust all throughout the West Bank. They have built trust over the many years with activists and with people that do good work. They also have trust with the Israeli government that they're not terrorists, so they can get permits. They can get access to areas that I just couldn't get on my own. They knew people. that I would have a difficulty meeting on my own. And they have a bus, and they have a bus that has the right license plate that gets you through, because the Israelis don't want to show themselves to tourist buses that they're mean people. They're not going to drag us out of that bus and go through all our IDs if it's pouring rain, getting wet, and then tell us we can get back. No, you're on a little tourist bus. You're going to go right through the guy at the checkpoint will check. You'll say, okay, and I'll let you go. So these are the advantages. I'm really thankful that I did both. I think it's important. Anyone can do this. You join a good delegation, you'll be safe to some degree. We did in Hebron get stuff thrown at us. I never felt tremendous
By who?
danger, but
By the Israelis?
Israelis were throwing stuff at us, potted plants, milk, just throwing stuff at us as we walked through the city. So things can happen and get a little.
And
It's always a little bit of a risk.
these were Israeli settlers in Hebron who were throwing
Yes.
milk and plants
Yes.
at you and stuff.
Yes, and the IDF watched it all, turned around, and walked away. So it's very true that the IDF support this kind of behavior. They don't look. We're in a period of lawlessness. That's the word. It is, and it's very scary. The thing I also want to commend Palestinians for is they don't just think about themselves and their issue. They are very well educated people for the most part. They know all about Sudan, Venezuela, Nigeria. They'll talk to you about. They knew about. Listen to this. When I mentioned I'm from New York, they would immediately like, "Oh, Mandami." This is before his inauguration. Your new mayor, Mandami. That's good. They knew all about Mandami. It was like so, and they were thrilled that I said, "Yes, I've met Mandami. I've campaigned for him," and they were like thrilled. You met him, so yeah, they have a lot of hope in his message.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
how did they get their information?
you know, they have internet. They have internet, and they have their ways. They certainly don't get it from media. Like they have people like you. They have their media that they go to, and it's in Arabic. So I don't know, but they have their Arabic stations, and they all know about Mandami and these other causes in the world, and they link their causes with, just like we Veterans for Peace do. We see how Venezuela, Sudan, we see how all this stuff is connected with our war machine. So do the Palestinians, and they equate their human rights with the human rights of everyone. So it's a very positive place to go to, because you feel that from them, and their bravery, their courage. Like it reminds me once again of the South. These people put up with us putting them down. White people, they walked. They didn't. We remember the protests and the things that got covered by the news, but for the most part, Black people stayed in their place, went to their jobs, had their children go to school, stayed with the system as best they could, because they wanted to prove that they're humans, and they knew the value of education, and and they were going to overcome. We shall overcome with this moral integrity, and that's what you feel from Palestinians. They are not. I didn't come across any hate of Jews there. Nothing. No one. In the month that was there, it's a slice of time, and I went all over on buses and talked to people. Never once did I hear anyone hate Jews. Do they hate the policies? Yes. They hate apartheid. It is horrible. I had great talks with these college students in Bethlehem that had to go from Jerusalem to Bethlehem. Their universities in Bethlehem. They have to make this travel every day. They have to wait. I had to wait with them 3 buses went by before we can get on one. And the third bus, I finally pushed myself onto, and they helped me. They're like, come on, just push. Otherwise, we'd be waiting there for another hour for the next bus. So it's crowded buses, and you get on there, and I was talking with them, and they can't stand what's happening. They hate what's happening, what they have to go through, what their families have to go through. Young Palestinian, but at no time did I hear them want to threaten the life. And they would say, look, we know Jews. We love Jews. Before the walls went up, Jewish people ate in all the restaurants in Bethlehem. There were a lot of restaurants in Bethlehem. There was one person I spoke to, her father ran a couple of restaurants. The restaurants were always filled with Jews and Palestinians, Christians and Muslims and Jews. There was not a problem, she said. It was, when the walls went up, the word got out, if you go on the other side of the wall, your life will be in danger. These people hate you. It's not the truth. It is a lie. And Miko Palid, hey, Martin!
Delaney.
Name is up there, Martin.
Delaney has joined us.
Yeah, it's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, man. Wow.
Well, it's been too long, Anthony. It's so good to see your face. I was reveling in your stories there a little bit.
Oh, gosh. I had my eyes closed. I'm going on and on with these poor two. We welcome you. So,
thank you. It's so good to be here.
Yeah. Go on, Delaney. What was some of your... How would you like to work that, Jim and Harvey? Tell us, Delaney.
I love having you run it, Anthony. So, you both were there. So, Anthony, why don't you ask Delaney a couple of questions?
Well, Delaney, Delaney, I was going on about my time really before the group arrived. But when the group arrived, I was telling you how wonderful it was to meet a lot of the people. But I must admit, Delaney was one of the greatest supports in that group for me personally. No, truly, his heart is in such a wonderful place. And I will, just one story about Delaney. We went to a Christian city called Taipei, which I'll let Delaney say whatever he wants to say about it. But we were told there by our group leaders that we should stay within the confines of this little city, because it was dangerous out there. There was a well that was 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the city that the residents, the Palestinian residents, would no longer dare go to because the settlers would attack them. And they destroyed their well. And so I was like, well, why don't we, as a group, walk along this road a little bit and just show a little resistance and come back? Well, that was nixed by our group, but that's okay. They want us all to be safe. So I was a little miffed at that. I don't mind being safe, but I also wanted to show that I'm here and I care for that situation. So early the next morning, I just didn't tell anyone. I went out to walk on the road by myself for a bit. And I noticed I was being followed by probably a settler car that was looking a little ominous, but he was following me. But I kept walking a little bit, and then I decided to turn back after 40 minutes or so. So I get back, and I see Delaney, and I said, "Hey, Delaney, so what are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I decided to get up early and walk down a road towards the spring." I'm like, man.
Yeah,
I was just,
right. So much for a unified front, right?
Yeah, but I was so happy to feel a brother that was feeling the same way, and on his own decided to take a risk, to risk his life a little, somewhat for this cause. So, Delaney,
I think
I love
for
him.
so many people, thank you. Yeah, it definitely gave me more courage to know that you were there, that you had my back, and I loved having your back. And I think we were able to push the push the agenda a little bit. I know they wanted to keep us safe, and I certainly understand that, but protective presence was something that was stirring in a lot of our hearts, and it was something that we were hoping to be able to gain the opportunity to actually participate in. So, yeah, it was wonderful when I actually found out that you were interested in doing the same thing. We were basically willing to take the same risks and just see what happened. But even though we weren't able to provide a united front going to the spring, we didn't engage with at least any of the Israeli settlers, although I am confident that they knew we were there, because I was seeing exactly the same cars slowing down and getting a good long gaze at me while Anthony was walking in other parts of the town also getting observed. So, but we were able to somehow hear a little bit more about Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel for the United States of Atrocity. And we were able to find out that Mike Huckabee was actually doing some kind of a dog and pony show there. He was going to a local distillery. Did you mention any of this already, Anthony?
No, I haven't. Go for it. I was waiting for you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah. So, it was so very serendipitous. We were walking alone together through Taibe, and decided I needed to use a restroom and knew that there was one over at this distillery. Nothing is ever what it appears to be, right? I thought I was just going to the restroom. Anthony was nice enough to wait on me, and during the process, he finds out that Mike Huckabee is going to be doing a dog and pony show. He's going to be showing up, and we knew a little bit of the time frame of when that was going to happen. So we talked it up with the group some. We were hoping maybe that we could put up some kind of a low-key demonstration, something nonviolent that would hopefully be significant in a Christian town, coming from a Christian delegation towards a supposedly Christian ambassador. It was our opportunity as Christians to stand up against a Christian Zionist, probably the most notorious one in the United States, or at least on a global stage. So we weren't, our idea wasn't particularly embraced by the community. We were getting conflicting information about that, so that was also discouraged. However, completely undaunted and not willing to take no as a final answer, Anthony and I and a couple other folks decided that we would wander over towards the distillery and see if possibly we could still engage a little bit of interaction with Mike Huckabee. And as it turned out, his entourage was leaving the distillery at exactly the same time that we showed up. So I think, Anthony, seems like you talked with some of the security delegate or operatives that were there, and they seemed to be okay with our presence. We stood on the curb there and let them know that we were Christian opposition to the policy of Christian Zionism, and just flashed peace signs, flashed our keffiyehs, let him know that that there were some white people that had come to be a presence there in Palestine. Take the risk, come to hear the stories, come back and tell them to our comrades here in the States, and hopefully generate more interest and more commitment and possibly even more delegations that'll go over and do similar things. And I wanted to circle back a little bit to what you were saying, Anthony, and also reiterate or reemphasize my experience, is that a lot of Palestinians that we spoke with made a point of saying that they had no problem with Jews, had no problem with Israel. It was all the Zionist policies, which generate things like the long checkpoints, which generate the things like the horrific apartheid wall that divides people. Certainly isn't making anybody more secure, and creates an awful lot of barriers and tension amongst people that could get along better if given the opportunity. But no, there certainly was no anti-Semitism, if you want to use that term in application to the Palestinian people. And that's been my experience and my impression with all of the Palestinians that I've made friendships with here in the United States as well. It's not only something that they project within their interactions with the people around them, but it's also something that I've witnessed them teaching their children, to make sure that there is a distinction between Jews, Israel, and policy.
And that's something that I took away from the Conference for Palestine, which I know you were among that group, and thousands there. I never heard anything even remotely anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish the entire time.
Yeah.
Well, that's clearly not what's reported.
No, I know. And Delaney and I had a great honor to eat together with a family, Palestinian family, with 3 small children. And Delaney, do you want to say anything about that family that they cooked for us?
Mm-hmm.
It was
yeah. Yeah, that was probably one of the most lovely experiences out of the whole 2.5 weeks there, was to actually be able to share a meal with a Palestinian family in their home, and do it in the semi-relaxed atmosphere, as relaxed as you can be when you're under siege in an apartheid occupation. But to hear their perspectives, that even though they are under such an oppressive situation, they're very, very welcoming. There is a joy within their hearts that transcends happiness. There's what I would say an enviable love that is applicable to all of humanity. They see well past their family situation and their cultural situation into the fact that this is what's happening here is a litmus test of humanity. But on a personal level, just being able to engage with 3 generations, grandparents, parents, and then these precious children that were all present with us, sharing the meal and gaining some perspectives on how they see things. Again, there was absolutely no hatred for Jews or Israelis. In fact, they elaborate on how the cultural sharing of that part of the world has well predated 1948 or the Balfour Accords. It's something that's been a part of their culture for a long, long time. Certainly, my most memorable moment was in speaking with the mother of the children, and I'm sorry, I can't remember her name at this point, but somebody had brought up the topic of a 2 versus 1 state solution, and her jaw grew very rigid, and she looked very intensely, and she said, "There cannot be a 1 state solution. They are killing our children." And that left a very chilling impact with me. Certainly, regardless of what any of the policymakers and politicians think, there is a reckoning there, a lack of justice that will have to be dealt with no matter how we go forward from this point.
Does she believe a 2-state solution is actually possible?
Well, we heard more often. Well, I'm sorry. We heard more. First of all, both states are completely occupied and run by Israel. We got that was so clear to us. You're in a quote unquote Palestinian area. It's run by Israel. everything, permission to go in, out, to go down the road 10 minutes. You need permission. You're held at a checkpoint. I mean, it's like, this is Palestinian land? No. But I think I'd like to go back to the meal. This is the answer. A lot of people said, look, one state, two state, this is all academic, all right? Stop, it's academic. What we need is justice. We just need justice, human justice for all. That's what we need. Call it one state, two state, 10 states. We're working toward justice for all. And that's what we want to focus on is the message I was hearing. And this family, they did not feel safe to bring there's one park in Bethlehem, one. It's like our Central Park, but smaller. They do not take their kids there. It's not safe. The settlers, imagine kids not being able to be outdoors in a park forever, growing up and not being able to be around trees at all. It's too dangerous, they felt, to take them there. But the answer is what Delaney just talked about, is having meals together. That was the answer in South Africa. In South Africa, there was a group called Koinonia. They would get white and black people together over a meal in a home. They would alternate homes. That's true in Northern Ireland. I went there. There was Corrymeela. What did they do? They got Northern Irish Protestant and Catholic kids together. They ate together. They did activities together. We have to get to know one another. These walls keep a separation. Unless we get to know one another, the walls will never come down. Just like the South. Unless we were forced to integrate, we could still be, and the same with South Africa, it would still be what it was. And the same with our South and here in our own city. I mean, if I didn't have Black and Hispanic teachers, I don't know what I would have grown up to be. We would have, these country clubs that didn't allow Blacks or didn't allow Jews or, we've been over the years. The thing I love about Mondami, I think Mondami, everyone should watch from start to finish. Not should, I'm sorry to should on anybody, but it really is very positive what we heard on January 1st from all the speakers, one after another, because they talk about a world and they give credit to people like you, Harvey, and you, Jim. They give credit to all the people that for the past decades have worked hard as hell to break down walls, to embrace one another, to do something about our prejudices, to learn about the lies. So this is the answer. It was the answer for us in Vietnam to learn that these weren't all gooks, that they had a spirit and they were right about certain things. We all have to learn about the other. And so that meal that we had was just one of the ways that we have to keep doing this, to see that we're human. And this is how we'll come to that one state. Or I don't know how it could be two states, because they have built settlements that look like Miami Beach on almost every hilltop in the West Bank. I mean, they are all over the place. Huge, huge Miami beaches on hilltops. I mean, I was there in 87. I was there in 2002 and 90. This is my fourth trip there. And I've just seen those hills become like Miami Beach. Those are all Israeli settlements. They are building today like crazy. They are stealing land like crazy right now. Settlers are claiming more land. They're going and taking sheep and herds and claiming land. So this is going on today as we speak. We need to stop it. And the answer to me is having Israelis, kind of forcing Israelis by not supporting them, to get to know who is on the other side of that wall, get to have meals together, build trust. I'm sorry to go on, but in 1990, I went around the world to conflict areas. I was very excited about conflict resolution materials. I was teaching it in public schools here in New York City. Conflict resolution, community building, self-esteem building, mediation, peer mediation, all this stuff was coming. Remember, in the late 80s, in the 90s, these tools that we here in America were building upon, that you were building upon when you're with the anti-war movement. We relied on these new skills, getting to yes, I'm okay, you're okay. People risked their lives to join hands together. So this is what has to happen in Israel. We can't support them keeping a wall up that supports supremacy. We need to bring back those movements, those, not the movements, but the materials of how do you build trust from nothing where it doesn't exist. Remember in Northern Ireland, they hated each other. They were killing each other. So, and in South Africa, they were trying to keep the divide and rule. So, God bless you. That's the way to move forward. And we have a lot of great Palestinian people that we met, Delaney and I, just that show the way. So I support everyone going there. Take your next vacation to the West Bank with Palestinians.
Delaney,
I have to say that I held those people that we met in such high esteem, to be under such intense oppression, yet managed to maintain a love for their fellow man and a compassion for the population that is oppressing them so admirably. I couldn't even imagine myself being in their shoes. And I feel the same way about the interactions that I have with people that are in Gaza right now after everything that they've had to endure. I'm not hearing any indications of hatred of the people so much as the policies. And of course, the indoctrination that is inflicted on Israeli citizens over however many generations now to see Palestinians as subhuman, as the term I was told, roaches that just need to be squashed. So I last night let my friend in Gaza know that I was going to be talking on this podcast, and I said, Abdullah, what would you have me say to these folks if the opportunity were to arise? So I'm going to seize that opportunity right now and say that he told me, please tell them that we are a good people, that we are a part of the grace of humanity, that we have so much to contribute, and that we are brave, although we have seen atrocities and had to endure atrocities that nobody should ever have to. And then he closed by saying simply, please do not forget us. Please remember us and speak of us going forward. So I think that's very important, like Anthony was just saying, but in order to truly speak with authority, you have to go over, you have to come back, and you have that credibility and projection. I'm not saying that you can't speak unless you've been over there. Certainly we have to keep this topic in the forefront, but for those who can make it over there and be a witness, it's a very powerful opportunity and ability to witness. And I did want to circle back a little bit to something that you were saying, Anthony, earlier about justice and how imperative it is to any type of peace-building process here. I wanted to reiterate what I heard on several occasions. This justice is not a vengeful justice. And I think probably that is something that people on both sides of the aisle are very, very fearful of. Right. It's not something that the Palestinian people wants to see as a revenge practice.
That's right.
However, it cannot go on in this apartheid situation, which ultimately is a tinderbox there has to be some self-determination. There has to be the ability for children to get to school without having to go through 5 checkpoints, and for Palestinian business people to be able to conduct their commerce without getting lengthy permissions for an export or an import in order to carry on their lives. They must be able to get fresh water on demand rather than having it rationed at a rate of maybe 2 days per week, while the Israeli settlers up on the hill have swimming pools that are overflowing. So there needs to be a fairness there, and that's what I interpret from their speech of needing justice. It's not a vengeance. It's not a revenge. It's a recognition of a common humanity and a treatment that must come from that recognition.
How do we get there?
Yeah,
What?
that question, of course, comes up. So, like, what do we do? Certainly, the situation globally right now supports Israel's impunity, and that has to end.
Right. That's the end.
I'm not sure how we get that to happen aside from economic means, and that was certainly brought up on several occasions, that the boycotts need to be taken seriously. Communities need to divest, and we need to have a government that's willing to sanction, or other governments throughout the world need to be willing to sanction a rogue apartheid terrorist nation that is acting with impunity. Other actions, certainly on a personal level, we all have to keep Palestine in our dialect, in our conversations. We have to make sure that it's not forgotten. To that, and taxes. Nobody wants to pay taxes, obviously, but it's certainly, if our taxes were going towards education and healthcare here in the United States, I think people would be far happier about paying their taxes than they are bombing children and assassinating leaders, kidnapping leaders, and invading other countries without being prompted. So, where was I going with that? I think there are websites out there, there are movements out there that I would love to see getting a lot more attention. Things like no taxes for, or what is it? No taxes for genocide, I think, was one of them, and then another, Not My Taxes, is another website or app that people can sign up for. Yeah, sorry, I don't know more of the details of this, but there are opportunities out there to push back on how your taxes are spent.
Yeah, and if I can add, there's so many things we can do. First of all, we know that the Israeli lobby, AIPAC, has gone off the new. They now have known they have to pull themselves off. So they're developing different names, and they're getting funding through different channels. So we have to be keenly aware that they are doubling and tripling their effort right now in many insidious ways to convince us that what's happening over there is right, and it's so wrong. So I still believe everyone should be calling their representative. We do have a bill. We have 114 Congress people that have signed it. It's to end settler violence. That's not the answer, but it's a decent bill. If you can look up, I think it's 30. I'm sorry, I'd have to get it, but there is a bill. See if your congressperson has. It's ending settler violence. I call my representatives every week. I have it on speed dial. My 3 reps, 2 senators, 1 rep. That's something we can all do. That we can support many organizations. Like, if you're Christian or care at all about Christian, there's a great organization, Kairos, Kairos with a K, Kairos Palestine. They've come up with a brilliant document. They've renewed the one that was done a decade or so ago, but it really speaks to any Christians out there of any denomination, because it is an ecumenical document that really straightens things out very truthfully and clearly about what Christians can do for this issue in a very loving, beautiful, direct way. So they have it's not up yet. It will be up any day now, I think, their Kairos document, Palestinian, Kairos Palestine. Rabbis for Human Rights, support them. Send them some money. The UCP that I mentioned, Nonviolence for Unarmed Civilian Protection, they're doing great work. They could use some support. So there are many, many ways, but I think the most important thing is continue to support our Jewish brothers and sisters. They are the key. Continue having conversations with everyone. When it's uncomfortable, let's look for the common ground. Let's not dig in. Let's try to remember the nonviolent spirit and to try to reach common. Pete Seeger, I love Pete. And one of his quotes was, "We all have to continue to learn how to talk to people we disagree with." I love that quote. We have to learn to talk to people we disagree with. And that's what you two do, although we agree with most things.
Well, we're very selective as far as our guests.
Yes, I know. We feel very safe. We feel very safe. Well, we've kept you like way over time. So there are many organizations to support over there that are doing great work, Palestinian run. And I really do urge everyone that can to get over there personally. Try it. Try to go through Jordan. And I think you'll be you'll be really embraced there, taking a little bit of a risk. You might be turned back, but hey.
Anthony, did you already mention who the group was that we were coordinated with, Sabeel and
Yes.
Friends of Sabeel?
I didn't go into it in depth. It just said the name, but do you want to say anything more, Sabeel?
Yeah. I guess since we're on that topic of folks seizing on the opportunity to go over and witness what's coming and witness and then come back to tell about what they saw, is that there is a Palestinian organization called Sabeel. It's a Christian organization. Well, I'm not even sure about that. It's an organization that actually arranges for delegations to be able to come over, and they will fill your time up with opportunities of exposure to the situation over there. They will keep you as safe as you would want to be, but also possibly engage in some of the protective presence work that needs to happen over there. But they do an awful good job of tailoring the delegations to their priorities. In our case, we had plenty of opportunities to see the situation from Christian Palestinian perspective, and it was very eye-opening to me. It certainly shifted my perspective enormously and empowered me to be able to come back and speak about it with some kind of credibility and authority. Nothing could possibly have ever prepared me as much as I studied about the situation over there to actually experience it firsthand. So for those who can make it over, it's absolutely enriching. Your life will never ever be the same, that's for sure. It changes your worldview, and it certainly, for me, changed my whole relationship with humanity in general. Took all of the indignation and the rage and the madness that I had about the situation going over there, and it turned it into a patient, long-standing resilience and commitment to the cause. So,
can you spell that for us?
Sabeel.
Okay. Thank you.
And their North American is FOSNA, FOSNA, FOSNA. They kind of helped us coordinate with Sabil over there.
Okay.
And the investments, look at our investment. Francesca Albanese is one of my great heroes, and you all know about her, but she listed the top 48 corporations that benefit from genocide. So those who have investments, look at your stocks, look at your holdings, and and get out of them and boycott. There are apps that you can have. What products to boycott? There are apps. It's skipping my mind right now what it is, but you can search for an app that tells you if a product is Israeli.
Right. No is one of them.
What's that?
I got one called No Thanks.
Ah, that's great. I don't know that one. There are a
You just
couple of
scan the barcode and it tells you whether it's
That's good.
Israeli.
Hey, that's great. Share that, please. That's really important. Thank you. And I found the number of the bill. It's HR 3045, West Bank Violence Prevention Act. We have 114 congresspeople. My congressperson is a Zionist. He signed it. So Dan Goldman, and he signed this thing. So let's go with that. But thank you for that barcode. That'd be great.
There's another site called Boycat that does the same thing, Harvey.
Boycat.
Yeah, you just scan Boycat. Has nothing to do with Momo, Anthony. At least I'm not going
That's my cat.
Your activist cat.
Yes.
Again, it's the same thing. You just scan the barcode and you set it up personally for whatever causes are most important to you, and it will scan them with those criteria and let you know a rating.
Yes.
As far as corporations, I know that that Francesca listed Elbit near the top, and
of course
we have an Elbit out of South Carolina coalition that we've been pretty active on picketing and trying to get their tax breaks taken away. So.
Thank you so much for that, Harvey. This Mandami's, if you can listen to him, everyone, because it's a very dark time. It's a very lawless time. Things seem to be really falling apart. But you see in that hour and a half of his ceremony, speech after speech, bringing us back to the community where our strength is, with that diverse, where by holding together and embracing all the work that you're doing by going out and picketing in front of Elbit. All that is included. You are the people, we are the people that are, all those people struggling for basic rights and for what is right against war machine. This is what is helping Palestine as well. And they know that. They know that their issue is tied up in the greater issue of fairness and humanity. By God, we have to get them in the fold. Mandami, I'm trying to remember his quote. Yeah, Palestinian, this is in his speech on the podium when he became mayor. Palestinian New Yorkers who will no longer have to contend with the politics that speak of, values like universalism, and then a politics that makes Palestinians somehow an exemption to that. Like they're the only people that are not worthy of.
And he wasted no time.
What's that?
He wasted no time rescinding those executive actions about the definition of anti-Semitism and anti-BDS.
That's right. His first day, and he's getting lots of people that sending out all kinds of misinformation about him now as a result.
Yeah.
So let's keep supporting him. There's one other organization. I'm sorry. This is going to be a 5-hour podcast? No, sorry.
Maybe 6.
Maybe 6. The Franciscan Foundation for the Holy Land. I went in 1987 to visit a friend of mine who's a priest that's helped start up this Franciscan Foundation for the Holy Land. He's living in Jerusalem for over 38 years now. And He's not into politics. He can't take a side one or the other because he knows he would be out of there. So a lot of people get upset with people that don't, side. Also, Delaney, this is true. I felt that the Palestinians do not want you to be pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli. They want you to be pro-human. That's what they're pushing for, pro-human. And that's what they're asking us. So that's what my friend who's a Franciscan priest, I would get upset with him the past 2 years, like, aren't you going to stand up and say something about what's going on? But he's the guy in 87 that took me into Palestinian homes, that helped me in my brain get rid of all the stereotypes I had heard from everyone in this society about Palestinians. They're well-educated, friendly, giving, human beings. So he brought me there, but he also, his foundation, which is, a lot of people say it's kind of conservative, they raised over $58 million for Palestinians. They help them with going to school, colleges, help them stay in homes. So they stay out of, they can't talk about, pro-Palestine, pro-Israel. They try to do the work, the human work. And that's what I think we have to keep doing. Keep building. As Mandami that whole crew keep building on the positive. Accentuate the positive. Don't listen to the hate. I think, Delaney, you put it well. Justice not with the vehemence, but justice with love and with care. Each day, what are we going to do about it? So I know you all have done Veterans for Peace. Anyway, you practice the preach. Thank you.